Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the. I always, you haven't noticed that I've done this, but I almost always start with my friend's intro to his. I almost always say the wrong show name. Hi, everybody, welcome back to talking about the big stuff with your hosts. That's plural this week. It
Ooh, it
was plural
sounded so
last week, but the introduction is plural this week. Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I'm Michael Cole.
And I'm Matthew Cravat.
And today we're going to talk about aphantasia.
Do you know how hard it
Uh,
was not to say and we're wild stallions?
yeah, well, Michael Christopher Cole Esquire,
Matthew R. Cravat, and we're wild
Wild
stallions.
Stallions.
So I felt better. I felt better.
Yeah,
Yeah, I referenced it the other day. I have a young coworker in our group, and he was also raised super Christian. Went to Bible college, intended to teach biblical history until he read the Bible too many times in Bible college. You know what that
nice.
does. And so which is funny because I had to hire him despite that fact. Like I had to put that aside interviewing him and say I'm not going to count that against him. What has he done since then? And it was a good call because afterwards we talked about it. I said, "Now that you're hired, blah blah
Yeah,
blah blah," and he's like, "Oh, me too." I'm like, "Oh." But he says he's agnostic, which I guess you would think is a pussy atheist. And I
yeah.
was like, I don't think that, but yeah. Um, but he as a super Christian was not allowed to watch a lot of movies growing up that we would think of as normal. So I mentioned a Bill and Ted reference in France last month, and when he got home, like he watched it. Like our next time we're in a work meeting, he called me um, Freud dude, and it's like oh wait, you watched Bill and Ted, and he's like yep. So it's kind of like he's like Captain America. He has a list of things he has to watch and experience.
yeah. I mean, I kind of went through something similar. I mean, I was not nearly as strict as a lot of crazy Christians, like groups and stuff, but going to Catholic school, I didn't read all the shit that you read as an American in
Yeah.
the 20th century and into the 21st century. So like in my like almost 30s, I started reading like read The Great Gatsby, Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
I
Catholic
also
school didn't have Catcher in the Rye, huh? Kill the
no
fucker. Yeah.
no.
Cool.
Um, so I
I
read a bunch of those at that point in time, very slowly because I have aphantasia.
so
Um,
now
so
back to the podcast.
yeah. So anyway, so this week we're going to talk about aphantasia. Aphantasia, just for everybody who's not aware, is the inability, or it's not always the pure inability. Sometimes it's just you're bad at it. But I have the inability to make pictures in my mind. So like if you close your eyes, think of something very simple: a red apple, a red T-shirt. Are you seeing it? I am not seeing it. And so that's basically the test for it. And so I just thought it was a fun topic. We've delved into some heavy topics, and I just was like, let's do a fun topic where Matthew can make about a million jokes that he's been picturing all week in his head.
Yeah.
Uh, and
So actually, I was talking to a coworker about this, and he's like, "I'm not familiar with the topic." And so I did the same example. I said, "Think of a red apple. Are you picturing a red apple?" He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "My friend Mike can't picture a red apple. He might think the words red apple. That he remembers he's eaten red apples, but he can't picture it." And and he was like, "Well," and I said he only recently discovered it, and he was like, "Well, how can that be?" And so here, check me if I'm right. My thought was like I said to him, "Well, like you or I might say, my grandmother made the best apple pie. I can smell it now." And clearly we cannot actually smell it now. It's just a metaphor. And I assume that Mike his whole life has thought when someone says, "Oh, I can see it," that it's just the same metaphor as when you say I can smell it.
100%. 100%. So the way I found out about aphantasia and then that I had aphantasia was watching the show Space Force with Steve Carell. There's a character on it that says he has aphantasia, and then does a quick 30-second description of aphantasia. I pause the show, I look at Sarah, and I'm like, do you see pictures in your head? And she's like, yes. Like, I'm like, you can like actually see them, it's not a metaphor to you. And she's like, no, like I can see a picture in my head. Like if I picture it, like And I was like, really? You can just see stuff in your head? And she's like, yeah, you can't do that. I'm like, no, no, I cannot see stuff in my head. And she was like, no, you must be able to. And then it like slowly dawned on her all of the things about me that she's like, oh, that explains so much. It's why
Yeah.
you she's like, that's why you can't find anything. I'm like, first of all, uh, that is not why I can't
Picture the
find anything.
last place you saw it.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Right. So so she was like, "Oh my god, it makes so much sense." And then she goes, "How do you enjoy reading?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I like the story. It's I don't like picture the stuff in my head." And I said, "But that's also why like when people got upset about the cat being the wrong color in Hunger Games, I was like, I don't remember the cat's color like cuz I saw the word orange or gray or whatever it was, and I didn't see
Right. You didn't
an
lock an
orange
image in
cat."
your head
Yeah.
that you pictured for the rest of the book.
Right. So I don't have any of those problems that people have. The same thing, I guess there was that one's a really good example
Did you
because
know
there's
that the Little Mermaid being cast by a person of color, she didn't used to be. She used to be white. I don't know if you
oh,
know
I'm very aware because The Little Mermaid and Mary Jane Watson may have shaped some of my childhood crush. My ideal woman growing up was
the whole
a
redhead thing.
pale skin redheaded woman with seashells or a Spider-Man T-shirt
Yeah.
across her large breasts.
Right.
That may be
And
very specific to.
so I don't get canceled. I am also aware the Little Mermaid is actually green in the Hans Christian Andersen story. So if you want to be accurate to the source material, she's green.
Yeah, yep. And isn't The Little Mermaid about it's a metaphor for because he was homosexual and it was a metaphor for an forbidden love because he was in love with a man
Unrequited love, yeah.
unrequited. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He could the other his the person he loved married a woman, and he was like, "But I'm right here," and he had no voice to tell him how he felt. So he wrote the story about having no voice, and then dying of sadness, in the story. So yeah,
yeah.
not very Disney esque.
No, no.
Well, maybe modern
I,
Disney.
we should do an episode, by the way, about Disney and public domain because I think it's
Yeah.
a wild topic that they
Uh,
made their fortune off that and now are denying the people.
oh, I read a great book, not on Disney stuff, but on the Disneyfication kind of things. That I gotta see if it still exists. I would get it for you as a gift before we do such an episode. If it's
Okay,
still, it was a book of essays about that kind of topic. It was really cool.
cool.
But you can't
So
picture that book. I can picture it right now. I can see the cover in my head. It's so weird that you can't. I mean, you haven't seen it, so you probably couldn't anyway. But that other books, you can't just see the cover
yeah.
in your head.
So as Sarah and so it's been probably 2 years since I learned that I have aphantasia.
And I'm like that
Um,
you are diagnosed by Steve Carell
yes,
in Space Force.
the best things in life. I was diagnosed by Steve Grohl. Um, but after we found that out, like little pieces here and there, like where we Sarah and I check in, and she'll be like, "Well, what about this?" Or and I'll be like, "No, what about this?" Um, one example was, "Wait a second, so like." You've seen my penis. You can just close your eyes and see my penis. And she's like, yeah, of course.
Me too.
And, and yeah, well, that's how you become a true friend on this podcast. Um,
So you get the co-host role.
yeah. Um, they can't see that there's a couch in my office. Uh, casting couch. Um, it is a pullout, but I didn't pull out. Um, so
I
anyway,
didn't pull
but
out.
I said, you can see that? She was like, yeah, of course. I can see that. I'm like, so that means everyone who's ever seen my penis can just close their eyes if they wanted to and see my penis. She's like, yeah. I'm like, I would have been so much more careful with that over the last 15, 20 years if I had known everyone was just going to be able to like recall it. I didn't realize you all had like photos in your head. I thought it was just like, yeah, I mean, it's got balls and I just
Hmm.
thought it was the way I saw it. I'm like, and she goes, wait, so you can't see like you can't like recall tits? I'm like, no, unless I can see a picture, I can like I could describe tits. Nipples and coloring because I don't want to get super sexual on this, but it is on this topic, but it
That's
is
the
kind of
first place my mind goes is like there's no masturbation unless there's external material to look at like before the days of cell phones, man. Teenage
yeah.
years must have been tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was I came of age in a different time than you, so we had scrambled porn. To this day,
Oh, we
if
had
you have a
scrambled porn. I We had that.
yeah,
It was over the
my,
airs, it wasn't over cable. You had to, like,
my generation, if you like guys of my age group, if you show us like a scrambled image and you put like just really like soft core moaning over it, we'll get an erection for sure.
yeah. I don't
Um,
know if that's a nipple or an elbow, but either way, I love it.
yeah, yeah. Maybe and I couldn't picture either way. I couldn't like I couldn't rearrange the picture, so I guess other kids could do that. But so no, so we were talking about that about what was I saying? Oh, so back to me being able to describe stuff. So I mean, it obviously applies to sexual stuff, but it applies to non-sexual stuff. Like that's how I've kind of so if I think I'm gonna want to or need to describe or recall something, I make like mental notes. So like right now you're wearing glasses, your beard has a little gray in it, your hair has a little gray in it, there's a towel behind your head or blanket, you have a big nose.
No,
I'm
you
assuming that's
damn
what
anti-Semite. I
I
can't
think
believe you
that's what
said that.
yeah, I'm gonna release the video. Oh crap, I didn't record the video. um so anyway, so like I've like learned to make notes of things, so like especially as a writer wanting to recall stuff, or like when I was in Italy the first time, I wrote a lot about it because I took a lot of pictures so that I could go back and recall like the texture of the cobblestone that would walk through and stuff like that. And I just assumed everyone else was making those mental notes and stuff, and I didn't know that they were being able to like bring that slide up.
But
And
I say our slides are not super reliable because the things you
right,
remember over time, every time you have memory, memory is a complicated thing. You're remembering the last time you remembered it, and you easily can misremember how things looked. And I mean, people are horrible at lineups and
yeah,
identifying things. When they do a trial for it, like a friend of mine was wanted by the police in Columbia, South Carolina, because he was identified from a mugshot photo from a guy who says he that my buddy punched him in the face the day before at a bar. My friend had not been in South Carolina in 15 years. The photo was when he was a prison guard in South Carolina, and like they put his ID photo in the mugshots as a fake one.
yeah,
And he is 6 foot tall, over 300 something pounds. The guy who hit the guy was a short, thin guy. Like there was nothing in relation with the two people.
yeah,
But that's what we picked out of a lineup because we're bad at it. It's probably better
right,
off making a list like you do than trusting our memories.
yeah, it's probably true. But I will say, like, if I don't think to do that on something, like this is the example, and to some extent, this plays into what you're talking about too. Like, because my house, the color of my house has become the topic that Sarah and I describe this condition to people with. I don't know the color of the outside color of my house, and we've now talked about it so much that I always was guessing one thing and then she would correct it with another thing, and now I cannot remember which one is correct. So I think it's bluish gray, but it could
Should
also
be
be
Grace Blue.
yellow. And I'm like, and she's like, no, yellow's the old house. I'm like, is yellow the old house or is yellow this house? I genuinely don't know, and
Yeah, I don't know either. I've been to both of your houses and I couldn't tell you.
I
I
think
can
the old
picture I can picture um, Sarah's car and your Corvette in the driveway, and your Corvette with and without the cover on it. I can vividly picture that, but I don't pay attention to your house, so I actually
right,
can't picture your house as well as I can picture. Like when I drive up, that's what I look for, like
right,
her car and the vet. So I don't picture the house. I picture the driveway.
nice, yeah, no, that yeah, that's kind of like I can kind of I don't picture anything, but I can remember layouts reasonably well. So like
What's the wireframe of the picture?
I could kind of draw a map of like my driveway layout, the the basic rooms of the house. There'd be a lot missing from it, and there'd be a lot of like weird off details, but basically I can. And I used to be really good. Actually, I'm pretty good at in the dark finding my way around a familiar spot. without having to have the mental image. I just memorized like in my when I was a kid, I wouldn't want to turn the lights on to go down and get you know juice
You
or
turn the
whatever in the
lights
middle
on,
of
you
the
can see
night.
the werewolves in the glass in the window.
True, but also I didn't want to like wake up my parents going to get like a drink or something in the middle of the night. Same thing, like I mean, I don't get up now, but like if I on the rare occasion that I get up for something in the middle of the night now, I can mostly find my way around in the dark. I will say my house now is lighter than my house growing up, but like I knew I knew how to find any single thing that I wanted in my house as a kid without being able to see the mental image. And I don't know if that is helpful or just coincidental that I could do that, but
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask if you have trouble like recognizing people or things because you can't picture it. But then I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know that picturing things helps me remember them. Like, I think it's
yeah,
like I'll see someone I haven't seen in years, and I'll be like, if you had asked me to what they look like, I didn't even remember. But as soon as I saw them, I'm like, oh my God, that's so and so. So I guess it doesn't,
yeah.
you don't need to.
So Sarah has a photographic memory, which is also weird.
Uh-huh. It's
Uh,
the exact opposites.
yes, exact opposites. And so I have a couple questions that I've asked her that she's answered that I'm not sure are the same for most of you normies. That's what we in the aphantasia community call you. Uh, that's not true. There's no community not that I'm aware of. If there is,
Imagists.
listeners, if you are an aphantasiast and you would like to form a community, please let me know. I would be interested. You're going to have to draw me a picture so that I can tell what we're doing. Um, anyway, no. So I asked her some questions, and I'm curious to get your answer on them. The first thing that I asked was, so do you see mental pictures? Do you see? Can you replay like a video, like a not like
Oh
the way
yes.
we would, but you can like let's say I don't know somebody who's doing jumping jacks and
Yeah, well, I mean, I can think of scenes in a movie and play out the scene, watch the scene in my head to an
Mhm.
extent. Not real long. Like I mean, I don't know if there's a spectrum and where
Yeah,
if I'm on it, but like, so I only can only hold that image for a second or two. I can't like lock an image in my head. But I can also like picture Luke Skywalker doing a backflip up into the rafters in Empire Strikes Back in the end battle. Like I can picture that vividly. The
yeah.
video of him doing that.
Do you hear like if you're replaying a scene like that, can you hear Yoda's voice, for example? I know he doesn't speak in that, but like in that scene, but if like any scene, can you hear voices and hear sound effects and stuff?
I I don't I don't know. It's hard to like I can I like I'm trying to imagine the sound effect of Luke's lightsaber,
Yeah.
and I feel like I can in my head know it, but I'm not like I'm hearing it. I don't hear it in
Okay.
my ears, but I know what the sound is. So I don't
You,
know. I don't know how to answer even.
well, that the reason I ask that one is because I think you know, but I'm a pretty good impressionist of a few. I have, let's say, a dozen good impressions, and I can't hear any of them in my head. I just know how to like adjust my throat muscles to get them, and I don't want to hear the comments.
No, no. I say what I did want to say was like thinking of like the classic Yoda quote, like when they say, "I'm not afraid," and he goes, "You will be, you will
You
be."
will be.
What I actually hear in my head, what I picture, is my older brother saying it because he used to make fun of that line all the time. I saw
Oh
Empire
yeah.
with him. He took me to see it, and I have trouble hearing Yoda because I hear Lee
Oh, okay.
doing Yoda,
Well, and
sexually.
that's another yeah. That's another thing is with the muscle movements. Some of the impressions I do, I can adjust and make new quotes and stuff with those impressions, and I can adjust for inflection and stuff. And other ones I can't. So like Cleveland from the Family Guy show,
Oh,
I
not from the
can
Cleveland show, huh? Racist.
I can only do one line from Cleveland. And I literally can't keep the voice going other than that one line because I've like memorized the muscle pattern basically.
Huh.
And for just for listeners, that is Peter, everybody knows balloons are the international sign for party over here. But I can't do any other lines.
So you can
Um,
edit in a clip of Cleveland saying that line in there, so it sounds like.
exactly. I need it to be sound perfect so that listeners are tricked. I've done it in person for basically anybody
Uh,
that's going to be listening at this point.
that's
When
pretty.
it's
That's a pretty excellent impersonation. It's pretty cool.
yeah. But I do have other ones like I can do. I don't like doing Yoda because I right now I have a little bit of a sore throat, and
Mm.
Yoda's kind of a beast on the
Scratchy
throat.
he is.
He is, yeah. But I can do Kermit, and I can do Kermit pretty good. Like I can adjust for him. So
Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here for Sesame Street News. And I can even sing as Kermit. I can do "It Ain't That Easy Being Green."
see, my voice is cracking a little bit
Yeah,
because of the throat,
we
but
get it. You dig?
yeah, but like I can adjust for that. But I don't hear those voices in my head. Like I do hear voices in my head, but not those ones. Um,
Yeah.
I I and so I just didn't know if those things, auditory and
Yeah.
visual, are connected in that way or not.
I mean, I guess I. It's hard to tell because I definitely don't hear it like it's in my ears, but I can picture Seth MacFarlane doing Kermit doing Liam Neeson doing the Taken speech when he was on Graham Norton. He did it, and I can kind of
Okay.
hear it. I can hear. I know his version is different than yours,
I
so
have a very special set of skills that
make
makes
me a
me a nightmare for
nightmare.
people like you.
Like you, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's funny because you say like there's some things like Cleveland where you can only do one line, others you
Yeah.
can do a whole character. When I was teaching improv, one of the improv techniques for creating an improv level character, not a deep thought out character, just something recognizable to the audience as a consistent different character than the last you played. One of the things I would say is that, or dual things, right? One thing was come up with a sentence that's a key, like you want to do a Irish bad Irish accent, fake Irish accent, not a real authentic one. You just like say to yourself before you get on stage, "You'd always have to be Lucky Charms," and then
Yeah.
you could just talk that way because you set
Well,
yourself.
and that is what it was for me with Kermit when I almost have to every time say hi ho before I start with it to get me into Kermit.
Yeah,
But then I can adjust, but I have to get started there. You talking about improv just reminded me of something that I listened to today, which was John Lovitz was on Howard Stern, and it must be recent because they were talking about George Santos, and they were talking about John Lovitz's liar character,
yeah.
and
And
he said,
Lovitz played Santos on one of the late night shows recently, and I
"Oh,
thought he
did
was
he?
going to do the liar character quotes,
Yeah.
and I got the Morgan Fairchild, and that's the ticket, and he didn't. I was shocked that he didn't do those lines.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that, but they made reference to the fact that like there was overlap there. But he was describing the liar character and how he went on and did it at Second City and he or was it Groundlings?
I think he's Groundlings
I
era.
think it was
Yeah.
Groundlings, yeah. And he said that he did it and that he just got up and was like I'm blah 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 with the pathological liars anonymous and I'm the president of the
That
club
organization.
of that organization. And he goes, and he's like, we did the sketch, or we, the audience asked me questions, and after I was done, my friend was like, you you just set it up, and then it doesn't matter how you answer the questions; they're just going to assume you're lying, and you can just be like, "What's your favorite sport?" Bowling. I like, and you're like, it doesn't matter if it's an honest answer or like if it's like a normal answer or a weird answer. They just assume you're pathological lying.
I like bowling because I can do it with my wife, Morgan Fairchild.
Yeah.
I met her a couple times, and she was a customer at a restaurant that I was maitre d' for. She would get takeout a lot. She never ate in, but she would get takeout in New York. And I always wanted to I always wanted to greet her, go, "Oh, Morgan Fairchild," but I figured she would never come back in the restaurant again if I did. So I was just always respectful and nice to her.
That would have been amazing, though. Like if you knew it was like if you were at your last shift
Yeah, I
and
know.
just be like, sorry, I've been wanting to do that for the last 3 years that I've been seeing
That's
you
the
come in every
ticket.
once in a while. Yeah, that would have been funny. Um, yeah, the all the implications of oh wait a second, people can recall that has been the hardest thing mentally for me to deal with as far as aphantasia. Like the everyone who's ever seen me naked can just
Yeah.
remember what I look like naked or
Well, and
um
that's the other thing we talked about offline previous was one of the things that I would chide you for when we first met is that you were reading a book that I had read,
oh
and I
yeah.
kept asking you, "What are you up to?" And like 3 days later, I'm 2 pages further in. I was like,
I
"It
know.
is not a difficult book. What's going on?"
It's okay. There's a few factors. I used to be used to be a faster reader than I am. It is difficult when my reading time is constantly being interrupted by dogs or a baby or a wife.
Fair.
Also, I've never been a fast reader, but like I used to be able to read like I read the first Hunger Games in a day or two, and I read some of the Percy Jackson books in a day or two. But I wasn't living with Sarah yet. Obviously, didn't have a kid yet, and like I think I had just graduated. I was like these were vacation days, and so I didn't have anything else to do. Um, but yes, I do read slower than the average person, and it drives me crazy when there's people who don't read. Like Sarah could get on a plane and and knock out half a book or more
Hmm.
from like North Carolina to Boston. And for me, I could knock out 20 pages possibly on a flight that long. Like if it's a simple book. And I think part of that, and
A
that really
picture
did,
book, you mean?
yes, a comic book with no words. Um, no, part of that has definitely been this inability to see it. So it like, A, is that there's also like, because I don't see it, I think that I have concentration. Like it takes me extra effort to concentrate and stay focused um the words. So like you're reading, and it was the Pale Horse is the book that you
I think it
that
was.
you
I think
know.
it was on, yeah, Piers Anthony on a pale horse.
Yeah, and so you're seeing all these mental images, and I'm not. And sometimes, like I read the first 50 to 100 pages of the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo book,
Hmm.
and there were so many references to what seemed like iconic Norwegian or Swedish or whatever country it was in spots. And because I'm not familiar with those things, I had to go look every single one of them up. So like if it was in France and you were like, oh, and we went by the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe, I'm not seeing it, but I understand. I get it. You know what I mean? Whereas with that book, I mean, I literally got 50 to 100 pages in. I'm like, I'm googling everything in this book because I don't have any reference point. And so like they're describing little bits and pieces of the thing because they think they only have to describe a little detail to make you, as somebody who understands the reference, just be like, oh yeah, they know what they're talking about. But for me, somebody who doesn't understand the reference at all, I'm just like, this could be a wooden bridge over a quarter inch of water, or this could be like the Golden Gate Bridge. I have no idea, and they're using slightly different words.
Well,
So
the Golden Gate Bridge is a wooden bridge over a quarter-inch water. I don't know what you're picturing, but that's what it is.
yeah, no, I've been there, so I remember. Um, But the what was I starting to say? Oh, so but the other thing is like it with romantic languages in English, because I'm familiar with those languages also. There was a lot of like if we refer to like I know the difference between a stream and a creek and a river, as as far as intensity.
Relative size and such.
Yeah, and because of Norwegian, the Norwegian translation or whatever, I didn't have any point of reference for anything, and I was
How
looking up
big is a fjord?
yeah, exactly. I don't know, like, and so I was looking up everything, and because I don't have I think mental images was a secondary issue there, but it was also like but it was definitely
Well, you
impacting it.
can't build the image in your head from an
Right.
ongoing description.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
I think for reading there may be advantages as well because there's a lot of times,
Oh
like I
yeah.
say, yeah, like you remember something wrong in my head. Like if I picture something incorrectly, then late or they don't give a full description, and I picture something what I expect, and then when it turns out not to be what I expect, I have to revise that image in my head, and that takes a
Yeah.
little effort that you don't have to worry about. You're just updating the words you remember they said.
Yeah. A huge part of one of the benefits is adaptations of books. I don't get hung up the way a lot of people do. And mm, Hunger Games is the best example because there's the cat issue, but there's also all of do you see
Right.
are you
Yeah,
familiar
the
with those?
people who thought Rue was supposed to be white and were upset
Right.
when a black girl was cast, but then
Yeah.
like people were posting the description and said she had light brown skin. Like, but
Right.
it was one time, so people
Yeah.
read past it.
Well, and I had zero expectation of her being black also, but it didn't like I just had zero expectation of any of the characters, what they look like. Unless like, like Mad Eye Moody, I had an idea what I wanted him to look like when I was seeing those movies, because the eyeball as a prop was kind of a specific
Key
thing,
plot
and
point. Yeah.
the limp, and like there was so much of it that was built into that character. But almost every other character in every other book that I've read before the movie or the show or whatever, I've had zero expectation for what they're going to look like. And sometimes if I'm like reading it, I'll fan cast somebody based on a feeling, and then they pick somebody. I'm like, okay, that's not what I see, but I like, it never like sticks and bothers me the same way that like some people, people get really upset about headcanon a lot.
Yeah.
For listeners, headcanon is what you think is going to happen versus based on, that's not necessarily based on anything. So like, if
In
you
my head,
thought,
I picture this person is
yeah,
always blonde. They never said, but that's how I picture it.
right. And people get very upset about headcanon,
Yeah.
and I just, most of the time, when it comes to physical description, I do not.
Yeah, so I don't get upset about it either because of well, two things. One is as a long term comic book reader, like seriously long term, like since the 70s, right? I am used to different artists having a different interpretation of how characters look. So characters just
Yeah,
change appearance, even like at the same time. There are four different Batman comics. One releases every week, each month, right? Different artists are doing it, and Batman looks different in each one because they have a different interpretation. So
right.
I'm kind of built to be okay with it. Doesn't matter how they look. It's just a different version. It's fine to be a different version. And also because I made the mistake young in my life, 1989, not that young, 22, to not be happy that Michael Keaton was cast as Batman because he's too short and not muscular. He's not Batman. And
Yeah,
then he pulled it off amazingly well for the time period. And I was like, well, you know what? My judgment of who can and can't be a character is wrong. I'm
right.
never making a judgment again until after I watch the movie.
Yeah, and he's back.
And he's back.
Yes,
Indiana Jones is fighting Nazis, and Michael Keaton is saying, "I'm Batman." It is 1989.
yeah, yeah. That's that is very true. And I am 5 years old again you are 22 years old again. Um, I was talking today at work about recording with you, and some of my coworkers. I said something about you being a bit older than me, and they were like, "Oh, we thought that he was like your age. Like we thought he was the same age." And
I'm
I,
young and I'm hep.
yeah, I don't know. They're all like early 20s, so they think I'm fucking old. So I think that could be
So
why.
I'm dead.
So it's not that they think you're 38; they think I'm 55 or whatever you
Yeah, it could
are.
be.
Yeah, but
I'm still giddy about the fact that when you were describing me earlier, you said a little gray in my beard.
yeah, I was being kind.
There's a little black in my beard.
Yeah. Did you know that
I
that
heard that.
men
I heard that.
men
Did you know? I heard the Jew part in there.
yeah. Did you know that men who regularly perform oral sex on women, their beards go lighter quicker? Not necessarily gray, it can go white or yellow or
No, that's right.
blonde. Yeah, yeah. And I was trying to figure out what to do for Sarah for Valentine's Day, and I was like, what if I just go get the beard coloring so that
Just for
I
men.
say I'm gonna need this after your Valentine's Day present. Uh, I told Sarah, I said earlier today, I was like, oh, we don't get very sexual on the podcast, and of course, this has been the most sexual episode so far.
I just looking at you, man. I can't help it. Just
I know,
picturing you.
I know. Um, I got to be honest. I don't know that I have much else to say about aphantasia.
So
Um,
I have a question for you.
oh, I do
Um,
have something else. Sorry, but you go ahead with your question, then I remember.
so we mentioned that when we first met, you were reading On a Pale Horse. As soon as I say On a Pale Horse, or as soon as you said it, the cover pops into my head. I see the cover of the book as soon as you just say the title. And again, I read the book when it first came out in the '80s. It's a series I always liked. Um, do you remember what the cover looked like? I know you can't picture it, but can you remember what the cover looked like?
It's yellow with a
Yeah.
white horse on the front. That's about all I can remember. I want to say there's like the Grim Reaper, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't think there was a horse on it. I think it
Is it-
was yellow because it was him driving the horse as the car. he's behind the wheel because the horse turns into a car.
Okay.
I think it's him in like in the yellow palomino colored car driving it.
Yeah. It's yeah. I remember yellow. That's what I
Yeah,
remember.
you got the yellow part. That's cool.
Yeah. Um. So what I was gonna say is, oh, two things. Two actually. Yeah. One of them I think is interesting. So I do dream in images, and I read that that is fairly common. I don't dream in strong images, but I dream in better images than I can see when I'm awake. And a few months ago, because I think about, yep, okay, I got the yellow right.
Yeah, it's him
Um,
driving a yellow car.
yeah,
Like you assume it's a horse because it should be, but the
yeah,
horse turns into a car.
yeah. But so I can dream in images, and because I've been thinking about aphantasia so much for the last 2 years, um, one night, I want to say like 3 4 months ago, I was fading in and out of sleep. I was just like trying to fall asleep, and my I was dreaming, and then I would break from dreaming to like thinking about the thing I was dreaming about. And at some point I thought, "Oh, I'm fading in and out of consciousness because oh, there's the image again. Oh, the image is gone." And that was fucking weird. And
Yeah.
I was not intoxicated. Um
Oh, so you can't have like a guided dream, like because there are times when I'm in that state where I
yeah.
kind of realize I'm dreaming and I can kind of guide my dream a little bit because I'm right on the cusp of waking up and too far either way and it's gone. So it's
Hmm.
not a thing you get to do a lot. But
Yeah.
and I
No,
can't do it like on demand. It's just there are some times when I'm like in that middle state.
there's times when I'm aware that I'm dreaming, but I don't really ever have control over it.
Yeah. Like,
But
because
I do.
like I said, where yours, where it's disappearing for you, like that would be the state where I have a little control over my dream.
Oh yeah, no, no. I it was yeah, I don't know.
So it's weird. I
Like
mean, I'm sure research is being done, but clearly you have the capacity to see images because you're seeing it when you're asleep.
right. But well,
And,
they said that that's common though.
yeah,
That
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of people with aphantasia have the ability to
I,
dream. I will say I've been able to see a little bit when I'm intoxicated too. Like when I'm
you're
very
like
very
Raj
intoxicated.
on Big Bang Theory. It's like
Yeah.
if I'm drunk, I could talk to women. If I'm drunk, I could see people's tits in my memory.
No, I don't see tits in my memory. I don't see like my brain comes up with new images whole cloth. Like because like if I dreamt, like let's say I had a dream about you, and yes, it is sexual. Um, let's say I had a dream about you. You wouldn't look like you. I would see somebody, and then my brain would go, "That's Matthew," but it could be like a black dude. Like it would have no connection to reality. But I would see the image of a person, and my brain would go, "That's Matthew." And so that's a weird thing too. And I think that disconnect is because of the fact that I do have aphantasia.
Yeah.
But like I'll wake up sometimes, and sometimes because of that, it might be a black guy, and at the beginning of the dream it's you, and the black guy never changes, and by the end of the dream, the black guy is my mom.
Well, your dad and I have been meaning to tell you something there, Mike.
Yeah, right. Uh, I wish I had not picked my mom as the example. Damn it. Actually, I don't think I've ever had a dream that my mom was in. She would be so sad to hear
I
that.
always have a dream that my mom's a black guy.
Yeah. Um, I did. I did have. So I had somebody one time in the last 2 years say something about like, can't you just like picture them, picture them fucking? And I was like, no, I cannot. And they're
I
like,
can't picture myself
and,
doing that.
and they were like, wait a second, you've never pictured any of us naked? I'm like, no. I'm like, no, I cannot picture anybody naked.
Well, but when someone says any of us naked, that kind of implies they've pictured you naked. I mean,
Oh,
like,
for sure, for sure.
because like the normal, like I would have said, like you've never pictured anyone naked. I wouldn't say me. I wouldn't say us.
I do think that now that I understand that there's pictures, I am aware, and I feel like I now think everyone pictures me naked. God damn it. This is gonna be such a mess to edit because I'm gonna want to leave some of this in, and I'm gonna want to cut so much of this out. Uh I, I don't know, maybe I just go, all right, I'm definitely cutting the stuff about my work, the specific employer at the beginning out, but maybe I just leave everything else in.
Well, yeah, you can't have Bill and Ted and not know who your work is. There's only one
It's true.
company that makes sense, unless you work in a water park
Yeah.
or a Ziggy Piggy,
I don't remember that part. It's been a long time since I've
the
seen it.
ice cream place that they bring Napoleon to, and he eats the giant sundae. They
Oh
go
yeah.
come out and chant Ziggy Piggy, Ziggy Piggy. I am
Yeah.
not the Ziggy Piggy. I'm Napoleon.
All right.
All right.
So I think, unless you've got any other questions, we can wrap this episode. We are recording 2 episodes tonight, but
Yeah, why are we doing that?
you going to France?
Going to Paris. I'm going to Paris in the morning. Well, actually, not in the morning. Monday evening, I'm going to Paris.
Yeah. So
Like you do.
nice. Nice.
Second trip to France in 2023. It's been 2 months,
Sweet.
2 trips to France. The way you do.
Listeners, we appreciate you, and we will be back in like 30 seconds, but to you it will be a week.
Yeah.
Um,
I can't wait to get back in your ear holes next week, everybody. All of Mike's friends and family who listen to this.
yeah, I think that I yeah, that's basically it. I would imagine a couple of your friends and family could listen to this.
I could when we do
You're the
something I'm proud
co-host now. Yeah, yeah. There's gonna be so much to cut out, and I only have tomorrow night to edit. Jesus Christ!
of.
All right, everybody. This is this is. Oh, I do have one thing.
Oh,
I do have one thing. It's not aphantasia related. I could save it for the next episode, but I don't want to. I want to mention it now. Sarah told me last night. Oh, I want to. This might actually take us up to almost an hour. Sarah told me.
not once you edit everything out.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. I need a little more buffer room so that when I edit it down, it's not 30 minutes. Uh, so Sarah told me yesterday. She said, "Well, now that you're recording the podcast with Matthew every week, just make it an atheist podcast." And I was like, "I don't want it to be just an atheist podcast. There's a lot of people that do that. They're better at it than me." But so like, like, I loved that she just was like embracing the fact that
Yeah, she's
like
given up fighting it.
just call it an atheist podcast.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I want to say.
I
Second
would
thing
call
is,
it incidentally atheist.
yeah, incidentally, yeah. So second thing is, yesterday was Valentine. Yesterday, as of recording, was Valentine's Day, and I was trying to figure out what to get Sarah, and I was asking some coworkers, and I was like, oh, I think I might go to Barnes and Noble. I'm like, I looked, Target has nothing. I don't know what to do. Maybe I'll go to Barnes and Noble. One of my coworkers said, well, what does Sarah like to read? And I said, well, the first year we were dating, I bought her the Harry Potter collection. She hasn't read a single book. Um, it was not problematic in 12 years ago to buy the Harry Potter
I
collection. Just
mean,
so
it was if you're Jewish, but go ahead.
yeah,
It's
but
always
I'm
been
not.
anti-Semitic, but that's okay.
But
You hate Jews, so it's fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I love the John Stewart stuff about it's like they're like from the what is it, the Zion,
The book says
the
letters,
book is
protocols of Zion. Protocols
Protocols
of
of
Zion.
Zion. The bankers are like directly from that.
Yeah.
But no. So first of all, again, I didn't see mental images, so I
I
wasn't
didn't even
picturing.
recognize they looked Jewish. I didn't even
I,
notice. Okay, that's why I moved my head.
yeah. So I bought her those. She never read them. I bought her Stardust by Neil Gaiman because we watched the movie and we loved it. She hasn't read it, so I was like, so I don't know. She doesn't really read, and they're like, she doesn't read. Or I said she reads, but like not like that. And I said the only thing that she reads regularly is she has a devotional. And I said, and anytime that I'm being really atheist, she whips out that devotional. And I was laughing about it because I was like, that does sound like it is like exactly what happens. And so I told Sarah about it last night. We were talking about it, and I said, oh, after she said the thing about recording the atheist podcast, make it an atheist podcast. And I said, yeah, I said, I told her that. I was telling my coworker that you read the devotional every time I've been really atheist, and she was like, I do not. And she was like, and I was like, it seems like it. And she goes, no, I read it when I'm stressed out. She goes, "I'm never trying to counteract your atheism."
It just stresses me out.
I did think that, but she does. She and I was. It was really funny. Like she wasn't offended. She just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But it was like because sometimes I feel like I'm like somebody mentions something on a TV show or it doesn't matter. I can get it. Cut that out. It doesn't matter that you hit space bar or whatever. But no, so I said like it just sometimes feels like, oh, we're watching a TV show and they get really Christian for a second. I'm like, ugh. And then you're like with the devotional. But so that's the other story that I just thought was funny to add. And while the next episode is more religious oriented, I just thought it was funny for this episode. So we will be back to you. It'll be next week. For us, it'll be in a couple minutes. And next week we are going to be talking about the Adam and Eve story, specifically the apple, and some plot holes that we think exist within that. All right. So thank you, everybody. Please subscribe to the show. Give us a review on wherever you listen to our podcast. Um, if in the future, if we have a Patreon and you're listening to this as an old episode, donate to the Patreon. Uh, Matthew needs it
I
for
I
beard
say,
coloring.
you were trying to figure out what to get your wife for Valentine's, and my wife and I decided not to get presents because she decided we're building a new deck that's going to be screened in and everything, and that's going to cost you know I don't know, $30,000-$40,000. The contractor's coming tomorrow, so I can't afford a box of chocolates right now.
Yeah,
So yeah, give us money. We like
yeah,
gifts of money.
yeah, yeah. And we don't have a Patreon as of recording.
So
So
just
just
throw
go
money at us on the streets. If you
yeah,
see us, give
just
us money.
go find a hypothetical Patreon that may exist at some point in the future. If you're listening to this sometime after February of 2023. All right. That's our money plug that doesn't really work. And so now we will say adieu
I do.
to you and you and you.